Sure, no, it's a really good question. I think really it comes back to the theme that I think we've been talking about for the last 10 or 15 minutes. It's data, data, data at the end of the day. If you've got consistent data across different asset classes that is easy to use, is accessible, is clean, but it can actually provide you insight. And if you've got a scalable way to analyze that, to build into some of the great examples that we've just seen in terms of whether it's clustering analysis, whether you're running regressions, whether you're doing even sort of simple visuals just to understand that data to build into actionable events. If you've got those components, that's how you're going to be able to get that value out. And I think one of the things that we spent a long time at BMLL, and one of our real value adds is in harmonizing data and making it consistent, not just over different venues, but over different asset classes. So whether that's on ETFs, whether that's in equities, whether that's in futures, the data is consistent. And that means the program and the analysis you run on equities, you don't need to suddenly reinvent the wheel when you're going to futures or to ETFs. You can just use the same if you're doing it in a Python environment, or if you're running visual tools or different applications, you can use the same thing consistently. So you don't have to spend time and effort, munging, putting that data into a format that works. It's already there for you. And I think that is the most critical thing for getting any sort of insight in a TCA perspective. And the other point is actually making that actionable. And I think that's the other real theme that's come out of this is it's all well and good having a nice report, but if you can't have a program to say, schedule things to run on a daily basis, actually turn that into something which can go and feed into your production systems, whether that's a daily report, whether that's a weekly update. If you do that, you're going to be in a position where you can take these actionable insights. And going back to that earlier poll question, that was one of the critical things for everyone. How do you actually get it into workflow and actually get outcomes from it, not just a nice report. And I think having integration into real systems is the critical way. But the fundamental point, if you've got clean, consistent, harmonized, granular data that's as granular as you can possibly get, that is going to be the foundation of any good program.
Yeah, we've been, talking about some of the just before I jump into this, before to finish on the workflow side of things, I think there's a couple of challenges that that you need to address. I think one of them is latency response time of the models. I think this is very good to have loads of data, and it doesn't really matter as much how long it takes to teach the model. But you also want models that can reply in a timely fashion. I think if you're looking at an advice for a given trader, probably looking at a model coming back in a couple of seconds, that will be acceptable. But if you are thinking about introducing that into a very reactive algo, a smart order router, for example, would be a perfect example of that. Then you probably need to shrink that latency figures into the very low hundreds of microsecond or millisecond numbers. Yeah. So that's you also have to keep that in mind. It is also important that the response time of the model is in line with your expectation and is in line with your use case. You can't wait for a couple of minutes to actually for some of the use cases. It's just not possible. So I think this is one of the challenges that you have to consider. And I think another challenge that inside the workflow, which is starting to appear, is in terms of regulation as well. It's just like, how do you explain the decision that has been taken by a model sometime? And I think this is and I think that could be the topic of a whole other webinar, I guess. But I think the regulation is actually a key area in this as well, which is how do you explain the decisions that have been taken? How you do ensure that the decisions are taken in a consistent manner? All the rules that were introduced around algos around MiFID II, for example, you would have to put them back in context of the machine learning models that you're actually using here. Yeah. So as examples on our side, we've been investigating on a few things. We've been investigating some machine learning models on the on price prediction, so short-term price prediction, especially for everything related to pegging algorithms. So pretty much, I think historically our pegging algorithm were you had to feed them with offsets and reference prices, and I think this is something that we didn't want to do anymore. We actually wanted the model to adapt to the current market conditions. So for that, we needed some a very short-term price prediction, so we will be able to do this, and that's one of the areas we introduce machine learning. Also, we are at the beginning of the journey on some of the parameter optimization around our benchmark algos as well. It's just like most of our clients are coming back to us and saying, well, as much as I love the fact that the algo is actually taking like between 30 and 40 parameters, I mean, I don't know what's the right set in this market condition to get to my outcome. And I think this is really something where we are introducing machine learning to actually advise or immediately select the proper set of parameters that you want to use to reach the outcome that you're trying to reach here.